Hey guys, this is Ryan Reviews the Magic here, and today we're going to be jumping into Disneyland Park. If you're new to my channel, my format is built around the idea of the vibes and the rides. The vibes being how fun the park is to hang out in, and the rides being, of course, the rides. And each of those have their own components. First off, let's look at the vibes. The first section of the vibes are the objective park elements. These are things like the theming, the immersion, atmosphere, layout, food, cleanliness, those kinds of things. The types of things you'd expect to have in this category. Theming wise, this park is absolutely incredible. It has some of the best themed areas in any park anywhere and just is absolutely over the top in the attention to detail that it has in its theming. And immersion is quite similar to that. In fact, the immersion of this park is some of the best out there. If you don't know what immersion is, it's sort of the way that like a park melts the outside world away. And while this park's location isn't actually super ideal for immersion, given that it's surrounded by busy streets and in fact even has a fairly busy highway around the back side of it, it still does a really good job of blocking out all your sight lines from outside the park. You really don't see anything outside the park from inside the park, other than being able to see like the Esplanade and DCA from the Main Street train station. Not only is this park incredible about blocking off sightlines outside the park, but even sightlines inside the park are meticulously crafted. Each land in the park is like its own immersive area that you can't even see other areas of the park for the most part. This level of immersion really pushes the theming over the top to where like you're in Adventureland and all you feel like is you're in Adventureland. Or you're over in Galaxy's Edge and you really are like in the world of Star Wars. Like it's really just an absolutely spectacular experience from an immersion standpoint, which really helps the theming out even more. Not only is the theming incredible, but with this amazing sort of pocket immersion going on in each of the lands, the park ends up being just this hyper immersive place at every single land. The only land that is even a little bit lackluster in the entire park is Tomorrowland, which unfortunately just is suffering from the Tomorrowland problem where it just becomes dated. But even there, it at least has kind of a weird, like, 1980s charming nostalgia to it, even if it isn't super great as a like themed land, but the rest of the park is absolutely incredible. And honestly, Tomorrowland probably only seems as bad as it is due to the other lands in the park that it's stuck with. If Tomorrowland was in any other park, it wouldn't even feel like that bad of a themed land. Like it would be one of the better themed lands in most other parks. It just happens to be in a park that is so incredible with the theming of all of its other lands that it becomes quite noticeable that Tomorrowland isn't quite up to the level of the rest. In terms of layout, this park's layout is, well, you probably already know this park's layout, whether you've been here or not. Its layout is so good that every other park, or almost every other park at least, in the second golden age of amusement parks, which started when Disneyland opened, has basically taken Disneyland's layout and more or less copied it to some extent. This sort of hub and spoke loop system that Disneyland has is such a well crafted layout that everyone else is doing it. In terms of food, I've said it before on a previous Disney park. Food here is also kind of similar there, of that Disney parks in general, their food is a little bit hit or miss. If you go to the right places, Disney Parks food can be absolutely incredible, while if you go to the wrong places, you can really run into some quite lackluster food options. Some of my favorite restaurants in this park include the Rancho de Zocalo restaurant in Frontierland. I also really like there's this little like kind of hot dog stand thing out behind the Matterhorn called Edelweiss. I may have mispronounced that, but that place can be really good for like a snack. I also really like the Bengal barbecue. Like the food's really good there. The portion sizes aren't the best, I will warn you. A lot of my family members really like the Blue Bayou as well, though you do have to get like reservations many months in advance. In terms of cleanliness, like I've said in a previous review, the cleanliness here is absolutely incredible. Disney is very, very good at keeping its parks clean. You won't find any trash anywhere. Like it's really, really well done. Very clean park. So with that, I would say that the objective vibes category of this park is firing on absolutely all cylinders. Like it really is an absolutely incredible park at every aspect of this. And so with that, this park will be getting the first ever 100 out of 100 in any category on this channel, as it gets a perfect 100 score in this category. So now let's move on to the park concept execution. The example I like to use to describe this is the idea of a good vanilla ice cream versus a bad chocolate ice cream. You probably like chocolate ice cream more than you like vanilla ice cream, but a really good vanilla ice cream is often a lot better than a bad chocolate ice cream. And the same goes with amusement parks, that a good generic amusement park can be a lot better than a poorly executed immersive theme park. So this category exists to help make sure that good generic amusement parks do score better in the vibes than bad immersive theme parks due to the fact that they are better to hang out in that case. Now, in this case, there isn't really any issues going on here in the concept execution, right? Like I mentioned before, this park is absolutely incredible at everything it's doing. It really is kind of the gold standard of which all theme parks are built off of. Like I said earlier, a lot of the lands not only do they do a great job of immersing you into the park itself, but they immerse themselves into themselves. Like you don't see other aspects of the park in each land, which is really, really incredible. Similar to my DCA video, I'm going to kind of dive a little bit into each of the lands here, though we'll be a little bit brief just because there's so much we could talk about of how good each of these lands are. I will be sort of in general from my least favorite to favorite, but not necessarily in that exact order. The weakest land, in my opinion, is Tomorrowland, just because it really does feel extremely outdated at this point. It feels more like yesterday land than Tomorrowland. But like I said earlier, it still is in most parks, this would probably be one of the better themed lands in the park. Toontown's a really great little land. It does a great job of kind of feeling like you're in a cartoon world. Does its job well. It's a fun little place. It has one of the best rides in the park. Fantasyland is another land that's also really quite good. I think it's one of the first lands here that actually there might be a land at a different park elsewhere that I think actually executes its concept a little better. Not to say that this one doesn't execute extremely well. I do really, really like this land. It's a really good land, good fairy tales, great place to hang out. Bayou Country is also really solid. I really like it on the rivers of America, which makes it feel really lively. I also really like that it does a good job of sort of being an extension of the lands that it's adjacent to. Lands we'll get into in just a second, but yeah, I think that actually helps with some of the cohesion of the park even more, having this land sort of feel correct next to what it's next to. Frontierland is the other land that I think that there are better versions of this concept in other parks. Not to say that this isn't a really good execution. It's still one of the best, but Ghost Town exists. So there is better Western themed lands out there. But I do really like this one. And the Big Thunder Mountain itself is really, really cool. Main Street USA is one of the just absolute best entrance areas anywhere, if not the best. It's just an incredible execution of an entrance area. And is in fact one of the few entrance areas that you actually kind of like to hang out in and of itself, which I think is really, really quite cool at this park. Even if I'm not shopping or getting food there, it actually is really just a pleasant place to just sit down and hang out, despite the fact that it's just the entrance area, which I think just adds to how incredible the execution of this park is. Adventureland is one of my absolute favorite lands as well. It really does just kind of take you into that place of adventure, And while different parts of it are actually themed a little bit to different areas, right as you're entering, you get kind of more Polynesian, while you might get more of a South American or African flair in other parts of it. I still really like the land. It does a great job being cohesive throughout that and really setting the tone of being this really adventurous place, and also has some pretty great attractions in it. Star Wars Galaxy Edge is one of the most incredible hyper immersive lands out there. It really is just a great place to be. It really is cool, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. You're really gonna love this place. It really takes you into that Star Wars story in a way that's really awesome. And the final land I want to talk about, as I've kind of said earlier, it's very hard to pick a best land in this park, but in my opinion, I do think this is the best land in the park, and that is New Orleans Square. New Orleans Square is just such an incredible vibe. It's such a great place to hang out. There's good music going on. The food options are the best in the park. You have the rivers of America there. It really is just such an amazing place to hang out. Not to say that there aren't other amazing places to hang out. That's one of the things this park really does so well. Honestly, if you told me that I had to go into this park and you would randomly select a land for me and I'd have to hang out in that land all day from opening to close and I couldn't do any of the attractions, just hang out, I think I would still have a very good time. Every single land in this park is that pleasant to be in. And that makes the concept execution score in this park a perfect 100 out of 100 as well. I think this park is just an absolute incredible park at its concept execution. It really is a gold standard park. There's a reason so many parks out there kind of base not just their layout around this park, but even pick a lot of the same theme concepts as this park did for its original theme concepts, because it really is just sort of the gold standard of how to set up a theme park and is unbelievably charming in every part of it, and is also the only place that you can really like experience something that Walt also experienced. And so that I think is really, really, really awesome and special about this place. That gives this park a perfect 100 out of 100 in the vibes. And so now we got to head over to the rides. Now with the rides, there's two halves of the rides, the coasters and the non-coasters. I'm a roller coaster guy, so coasters are always going to be half the battle. But I also have a toddler and family members that aren't super big on thrill rides. And so I really do appreciate some good family rides when you have them. So first we'll look into the non-coasters. And the non-coasters in this park are really, really good. We'll start with kind of the weaker aspect of the non-coasters, which is the flat ride lineup here, which is really just some good supporting family flat rides that are all classics, Mad Tea Party, Dumbo, Astro Orbiter. You know all these rides. It isn't the most spectacular flat lineup in the world, but where this park really takes over in terms of its non-coaster rides is the dark rides. This park has more dark rides in it than any other park on Earth by a wide margin. And not only does it have an incredible quantity of dark rides, the quality is just absolutely unbelievable. Not only does this park have an incredible collection of like really charming, cute dark rides in the Fantasyland dark rides, as well as Winnie the Pooh, but it also has some of the absolute best headlining e-ticket dark rides you can find anywhere. Like the fact that this park has Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, Rise of the Resistance, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Indiana Jones, and Tiana's Bio-Adventure, and one of those, or at least one of those, depending on how much you like other dark rides in the park, is not going to be in the top 5 dark rides in the park is absolutely insane. If you love dark rides and that's like the thing you want to do, this is the best park out there, and there really isn't even a close second to it. We'll just kind of go into my personal top 5, I think. Everything else we'll kind of skip over just because, like I said, there's a lot of dark rides in this park. There's a lot of really good ones. We could be talking all day about these, and these will be kind of more brief overviews because I will be doing more in-depth ride reviews in the future. We'll start off with Indiana Jones since it's the one that's closest to the entrance of the park, and this is just an absolutely incredible dark ride, right? Like, it's so much fun. There's some really great effects in it. It's an absolute blast of a dark ride. I also really love that it does do a really good job of immersing you into its story, given that, like, unless everybody in the ride vehicle has their eyes closed the entire time, it's pretty much guaranteed someone's going to look into the eye. And so it does kind of immerse you in of like, yep, it's your fault this is happening. Next, we'll kind of just continue to rotate around the park as we're looking at my 5 favorites. We'll head over to Pirates of the Caribbean. There's just like an absolute incredible classic boat ride. Not only is it like a super classic boat ride, it's super long, super high capacity, which is nice so you don't have long waits very often. But also it has probably one of the, if not the most iconic song from any dark ride out there anywhere. Even if you aren't like a Disney Parks fan or a Disney fan in general, or like you aren't a fan of sea shanties, you probably know the tune and lyrics of Yo Ho from Pirates of the Caribbean. Like it's that famous of a song because it just is that good and catchy. We'll go just a little bit further down to Haunted Mansion, which is just an absolutely incredible Omni mover. It has so many really just great classic effects on it and practical effects. And so it's really just like such an amazing ride because like it's so cool how well all those effects work despite the fact of how old they are and how much like better technology there is out there, that like this ride still like pulls off some really amazing effects. Imagineering back in the day really had some amazing Imagineers who figured out so many of these really awesome effects, and I just love it. It's such a good ride. Continuing on our rotation, we'll then head to Rise of the Resistance. And Rise of the Resistance, I think, is probably like the most technologically impressive ride out there. It's sort of a modern day Haunted Mansion. There's so many incredible practical effects going on that are just so convincing. I don't think it's the most immersive immersive ride in the park or in the resort. I mentioned Indiana Jones being a little more immersive than it, and I've mentioned in a previous video Mission Breakout being a little more immersive, just because I don't think this ride does a good job of actually bringing you into the story. You're kind of along for the ride, which can make the elements where they kind of act like you did more than you ever did in a very like serious way feel a little like raking in the immersion. But other than that, this is a truly incredible experience, and just being able to just see the massive sets they've built, the incredible effects that like are mind blowing. Probably was going to be the ride I'd finish last with if I didn't go in this rotating around format, but still, it's awesome. And the final one we'll talk about is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which I think is probably the most clever usage of a trackless dark ride system out there. We've all watched a cartoon where like a train derails and all the cars go off in different directions and then they come back together perfectly like nothing ever happened. And being able to use the trackless dark ride system to create this in real life is like just a brilliant usage of the system. Also, super catchy song as well, and does a great job of making you kind of feel like you're in a cartoon. As I said, there's so many more dark rides we could have talked about on this. There's so many more rides we could talk about. Like this park really does have an incredibly well-rounded non-coaster lineup. It does everything you could possibly ask a non-coaster lineup to do. It has, like I said, the best dark ride lineup out there by a massive margin. And so I cannot give this park's non-coaster rides a score of less than a perfect 100 out of 100. And finally, carrying a perfect 100 out of 100 score going into the final category, which is the roller coasters. And the roller coasters here are, well, there's definitely could be some improvement here. So quantity wise, there's technically 5 roller coasters here due to the fact that Matterhorn bobsled is actually 2 different roller coasters. So in terms of quantity, this isn't the best number out there. And quality is, well, there's some good news and bad news when it comes to quality. The good news is that this is probably one of, if not the most iconic coaster lineup you'll ever find. The bad news is that iconic and good aren't necessarily synonyms. So let's dive a little deeper into this. We'll first start off with the Chippendale Gadget Go Coaster. It's a kid's coaster, just standard Vekoma Jr. model. In fact, there's an exact clone of it in Magic Mountain. Nothing super special here, but it's a kid's coaster, does its job. Next time we're looking to what I consider to be the most overrated roller coaster out there in Space Mountain. While I understand the nostalgia people have for the music on it and like the iconicness it has, and that a lot of people I'm sure have had great rides as kids on it. Yeah, it's smooth, but like the layout really doesn't do anything. It just kind of keeps turning the same direction over and over again and doesn't pull really much of any forces. In fact, it actually is only a couple miles an hour faster than the Chippendale Gadget Coaster. So it's really like borderline a kid's coaster. The next coaster or coasters we're going to look at is the Matterhorn bobsleds. And the Matterhorn bobsleds has a lot of like historical significance due to the fact that it's actually the very first tubular track steel coaster. Now, in terms of ride experience, if your favorite part of aerodynamics coasters is their janky aero transitions, I have really good news for you here. This ride is nothing on both sides but janky aero transitions. You don't get any of the hypercoaster drops, triangle ejector airtime hills, or forceful corkscrews and loops. It's nothing but those good old classic janky aero transitions, straight from the top of the mountain all the way down to the bottom. You could argue that Space Mountain is definitely a better ride just for smoothness reasons, but I don't know. For me, I think just the sheer iconic and historical significance of this ride definitely puts it above Space Mountain for me. And it does have, I think, better forces overall. And my personal favorite coaster in the park is Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Thunder Mountain is a solid mine train coaster. It definitely lives up to its moniker of the second wildest haunted ghost mine train themed ride in the Anaheim Buena Park area wilderness because, come on, Ghost Rider exists. All jokes aside, this ride actually is very significant to me as it's actually the ride that caused me to become a coaster enthusiast. I went here as a kid and ended up really loving this ride a ton, which then turned me into a coaster and theme park enthusiast, which eventually led to me going to quite a few different parks and ultimately creating this channel. So yeah, this ride is very special to me, and so I do love it for that reason. Even if, like, yeah, there are a lot better coasters out there than it, it still always holds a special place in my heart and will always be my favorite coaster in this park. Well, unless they get an RMC. So, in terms of coasters, this park definitely has a very solid family coaster lineup. I think it has one of the better family coaster lineups out there. It is very well rounded. Even though it actually, like, back when it was building these coasters, these were, a lot of them were very innovative and some of the, like, biggest coasters around back then, which is really kind of wild to think that that was a time period that, like, these actually were probably legitimately major thrill coasters when they opened. But unfortunately, the 90s coaster wars came and have kind of left these coasters and many other top end thrill coasters at other parks behind and turned them into family coasters by today's standards. Unfortunately, that's really what's going to hold this park back in terms of its coaster score, is that there isn't a top end thrill coaster at all. It's just family coasters, and I appreciate good family coasters, but definitely would like to have a solid thrill ride while I'm at the park. So that gives this park a coaster score of 20 out of 100, which is unfortunately, yeah, it's not the best. Unfortunately, being only family coasters really holds it back. But for the personal significance of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and the historical significance of Matterhorn bobsleds, I think definitely those are worth a good amount of points themselves. So that gives this park a ride score of 60 out of 100 to go along with its perfect vibe score of 100 out of 100, giving an overall score of 80 out of 100. In my scoring system, 50 is average, so 80 is extremely good. And this is a really, really good park. It's one of my favorite parks I've ever been to. It really is firing on all cylinders in so many aspects of the park, right? Like, it is an absolutely great place to hang out in, no matter where you're hanging out. And then it also has a truly great non coaster lineup, headlined by its absolutely legendary lineup of dark rides. So, in terms of my recommendation, I would definitely say you definitely should come out here. One, if you like Disney parks in general, this is the original Disney park. And so you definitely would want to come out here for no other reason than that. I definitely wish that it would have a little bit better coaster lineup, particularly in the thrill coaster category. But unfortunately, at least in its current state, that isn't something that's probably going to happen. Despite its struggles in the coasters, it still is one of my favorite parks I've ever been to. It is just so well rounded at everything else that, like, it's hard not to like this park. Those are my thoughts on Disneyland. What are yours? Please let me know in the comments below. And of course, please like and subscribe. It really supports the channel. And until next time, I hope you have the happiest day on earth.